Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to An Orange Life. Thanks for tuning in. Thank you to any new subscribers. I'm just trucking along slowly, guys, but we getting there one subscriber at a time, one video at a time. Okay, guys, you see the thumbnail. Let's talk about it. When I get to my 1,000 subscribers, I think I'm gonna give you guys a nickname. Y'all can comment below. Do you want to be called Psych Tex or since this is my channel is the psychology of, and I'm a psych nurse, so do you guys want to be psych techs or do you want to be I don't know. We'll think of something. Techies. I don't know what to call y'all. I don't know. But because for those of you who are subscribing to this channel, you're probably liking that we're breaking some of this stuff down and looking things in a different way than some of these other videos. All right, let's jump right into what the thumbnail is showing you because that's why you clicked. Because, like I said, I don't believe in doing a bunch of yakking because I know it gets on my damn nerves. Okay, guys, we're going to talk about. I'm using Haley and DDG as an example for what we're going to talk about. I thought about it because I remember my last video. I said something about who's raising these young girls and who's their mamas, and I realized that I need to stop saying that because we're in a society now where people are not being. Everybody doesn't have good mothers. Everyone doesn't have good fathers. Everyone doesn't have proper guidance. So I think it's important that these videos helps, like it helps young people look at things in a different perspective, or just any woman. You don't have to be young, but just looking at things in a different perspective, because a lot of people really don't have proper guidance. So I'm going to stop saying that, so let me get down to it. Now we've seen what DDG and what was going on with DDG and Hallie on the internet. It started over the weekend that he was complaining about not seeing his son, and this whole thing with Hallie and DDG is unfortunate. And I'm using this as an example of what happens, especially with today's young people. This is not yesterday. We're in a new time. Young people are different now than when I was that age. So let me break this down because this is what we do. We on this channel, um we break down things and look at why people do what they do, not so much what they do but why. Okay, now DDG and Hallie, they were young when they started dating. They're still young. These are neither one of these young people are over 30. I believe that Hallie is she's not 25 yet. I don't believe. I'm looking up her age now, but I don't think she is over 25. And I'm not sure how old DDG is, but I'm looking at it. She's 24. Right. She's 24. And as of what I just looked at, and let me see about DDG. Um, and because in order for me to prove my point, he's 27. Okay, but boys mature later than girls. Hallie's 24, DDG is 27. Halo turned a year recently, then go back 9 months to when Hallie was pregnant. So we're going to go back 2 years. So Hallie was 22 and DDG turned 25 when they both came into each other's lives. Now, I don't. Hallie seems like she had a sheltered background, her and her sister, and you can tell. And and the reason why I say that is because I think if Hallie was able to date more when she was younger, I don't know if she would have chose DDG. I don't know that. I can't say for certain because I really don't know her family dynamic. I know she has parents and I know she has other siblings and things like that, but I don't know what the family dynamic was. Because I believe that there is a religious component to their family. Like, I'm not sure if it was Jehovah Witness. I'm not sure what it is, but I know that there's a religious component where the family was very strict when it comes to that in the religion. Now, having said that, Hallie and DDG were both too young to be in a relationship. And let me tell you why. Today's 20-year-olds, they do not need to be in relationships or have children because in your 20s, those are your exploratory years. Your frontal lobe doesn't close until you're 25. So if your frontal lobe doesn't close until you're 25, which is the part of the brain that insight and judgment are formed better, under 25, you do not have good insight or judgment. Your frontal lobe hasn't completely formed. After 25, you start to pick up better insight and judgment. That's why by the time you get in your 30s, that's why you see when people get in their 30s, they're into their careers, they want to get married, things like that, because that's when things start to become more clear to you. In your 20s, and listen, young people, if there's anybody listening to this video who are in their early 20s right now, this is not the time to get married. I know you think that you may love this person and they're forever and this and that. No, there's nothing wrong with dating, but marriage is off the table in your 20s. Children should be off the table in your 20s. We're talking about today's young people. We're not talking about yesterday. In this society today with AI, this is a microwave world now. Young people now have the attention span of a fruit fly. So, your 20s, you're supposed to be exploring who you are. You don't know who you are at 22, 23. You just became an adult at 21, a full fledged adult. You just became able to legally drink, to do things on your own without parental supervision of some kind. Because from 18 to 21, some young people, the parents are still, very involved because the children are still very immature at that age. So in your 20s, you're supposed to be finding out who you are. You're supposed to be dating, having fun, have your friends, getting your education, setting yourself up as far as what you're going to do in your latter 20s as far as career. This is the time that you're like, okay, I want to go to school for this, or I want to go to school for that, or I want to learn this trade, or I want to go into the military. These are the things you have to explore. My daughter is 30 years old and she's been to school 3 different times. I'm on my last round of paying tuition. Okay, I paid tuition for my daughter 3 times and she's now 30. Okay, and she's on her last degree at this point because now I'm just broke and I'm over it. But the point I'm making is that it took her 3 times to finally figure it out. Like what she wants. She just turned 30 this year. So it took her all of her 20s to figure out what direction she wants to go in. Because when you're in your 20s, you're trying to figure it out. You don't know what's going on in your 20s. You just became an adult. You just got from up under your parents' thumb. So you don't know, like, okay, how do I want to dress? How do I want to look? Who do I want to date? Who are my friends? And, am I a tech person? Am I a homebody? Am I an introvert? Am I an extrovert? Especially if you had, bad years in high school. If you didn't have a good high school experience, that's even more reason why your 20s are important because this is the time when parental influence is basically done. Now you have to make your own decisions because when you're a child, you're told what to do every day for 18 years. You're told to go to school, clean the house, do your homework, take a shower, do this, go cook dinner, go wash the dishes, go mow the lawn. You're told what to do for 18 years. So then when you get over 18, when you're like 18, 19, 20, now you're trying to figure stuff out. Like, okay, what do I do? What do I do? Because you don't know. You're just becoming an adult. So if you're just becoming an adult, how are you able to handle grown up responsibilities when you're just became a grown up and your frontal lobe hasn't even developed? You don't have good insight or judgment. So in your 20s, that is not the time to be making long term serious commitments, which is marriage and children. That's too serious in your 20s. You're supposed to be out there in your friend group, hanging out, seeing what kind of boys you like. That's another thing. In your 20s, you're supposed to date around. And I'm not saying sleep around. There's a difference. I said date around. Date different types of people. That's for men and women, boys and girls. Date different types of people. If you were in high school and you only dated like guys in your school that was in your area, you might find that you might like other types of men. You might go out here and find, you know what, I like hanging with, the Mexican family. I like hanging out with the Asian family. I like hanging out, with, these other groups of people. I like their culture. I like, how you don't know. How do you know unless you explore? So the 20s, your exploratory years. This is why DDG and Hallie are having such a hard time, because DDG, I see that he wants to be a father. I see that. But I think what it is that he doesn't know what he's doing. He thinks that, oh, I have my son on, social media all the time. Oh, I'm a dad, I'm a dad. But it's more to that. But see, again, he's young. He don't even know what the hell is going on. And he didn't know how to handle being in a relationship with Hallie. Hallie is a superstar. She's a Disney princess. That's going to go down in the books. Hallie is going to be a part of, celebrity culture as far as Disney. As long as there's a Disney World around, and as long as there's a Disney, Hallie's going to be in that. That's just it. She's a part of history now. He has mentioned many times that he was, intimidated by her celebrity status and stuff like that. And see, now that they're not together, he's not a part of her world anymore. See, when they were dating, he was, around Beyonce and Jay-Z. He's going to red carpet events, fashion week, because this is what Hallie was going to. And see, now that they're not together, he's not a part of that. So he kind of doesn't even know his position. He doesn't know. And he's 27 years old. And again, boys mature, slower than girls. Even though he's 27, he acts like he's 22, 23 himself with his behavior. Because he just acted like a nut over this weekend, making songs and talking crazy. If you're so upset about not seeing your child, it's called go to court. This is what I'm saying. He does things the immature way. Now, as far as Hallie is concerned, Hallie is 24 years old. She got pregnant at 22. So that was too young to be having a baby. She didn't even know DDG. Y'all haven't dated long enough. She don't even know if she liked him. If she would have spent more time dating him or just dating casually. That's all, just dating casually. She could have went out and everything doesn't have to be in the public eye. They could have went out on a couple dates and she could see if she liked him or not. She didn't even, so that's what I said. For them to be together and then have this baby so fast, this is why they're having so many problems. Hallie's frontal lobe hasn't even formed yet. So she still hasn't come into complete logic and insight yet. And DDG, you could just forget it. We could see he don't have no insight and judgment. We could see that he's slow maturing because he out here making songs and acting all crazy over social media, talking about she's keeping me from my son, all because you couldn't see him when he was sick. Well, they're both sick. And from what I heard, they had RSV. And RSV is very serious. It's very serious in children. Very serious. And I'm sure Hallie was very concerned. She's sick herself. There's nothing worse when when your child, regardless of what age the child is, when your child is sick as a mother, you just want to make it right. And to see, this is her first child, so to see her child sick with something that, like I said, RSV, which is very serious, whether it's a child or adult, but it's really very serious with children because children, their immune system, depending on the child, some children's immune systems are stronger than others. And, that could be something very serious. I've, seen children hospitalized with RSV, and that can be very serious and it can be very scary, especially when a child is trying to breathe, because a child that young can't tell you I can't breathe or I need to sit up, or they can't tell you. So that's why I said I'm sure Hallie was very concerned about, Halo while they were sick and she was sick as well. So that's why I said I understand that he might wanted to see his son because he was sick. But when a child and the mother is sick, sometimes you just have to let it be what it is. Y'all are not together anymore. So he doesn't understand that you don't have control when you're not under the same roof with your child. You don't have that kind of control. You're into, he said that they live 2 hours away. And then he also said that he sees him 72 hours a week. Well, ain't that 3 days? It's only 7 days in a week. So you still not get, you still get your time with him. And I know Hallie gets very nervous and concerned when him always being on social media. Because every time he has that child, he videos that child all the time. Because when I go on YouTube, all I see is shorts with the baby all the time. DDG and Halo, DDG and Halo. That's all I see. I see him. I don't even follow Haley and I don't follow DDG. But he always has that child with a camera in his face. That's why Halo hit him in one of those reels. I saw one of them. He hit him in his face. He probably said, "I'm sick of this mess." So that's why I said they were too young. Your 20s is not for having children and being in serious relationships. Your 20s really sets you up for your 30s. That's what your 20s are for. That's why when you see these older women on social media that's trying to look young, dress young, and out here thirst trapping when they in their 50s and 60s, that's because they didn't have their youth. That's for women who didn't have their youth. When you pass through your stages of life like you're supposed to, you don't act like that. Because I passed through my stages of life. I didn't get married and have children until I was 27. And by that time, I was ready. I did all my partying. Let me tell you something. I partied out there with the best of them. I was in New York, DC, LA, Atlanta. I've been to Greek picnics, freakniks, you name it. I was there shaking my behind. And thank God there was no social media because my big butt was shaking from coast to coast. Okay. So that's why I said I was having the time of my life in my 20s because I did it right. And then by the time I got to 25, I was partying from 16 to 25. I was all over the place. So that's why I said by the time I turned 25, I was ready to settle down. I met my first ex-husband when I was 25, married at 27, and I found that I was pregnant on my wedding day. So I had my kids, I had two kids. My kids are 18 months apart. So by the time I was 30 going into 31, I had two kids by that time. But I was ready though. That's the thing, because I did all my partying. I was out there dating. I had my fun. I was out there just doing me. And that's what you're supposed to do. Because now that I'm older, I'm okay being older because I passed through my stages correctly. When I became a mother, I enjoyed being a mom. When I when I was married to my first husband and we had our children, I enjoyed being a mom. I stayed at home. I, was cooking every day, playing with my kids. Like I really enjoyed being a mom. I was reading to my kids. I was taking them to the library for story time. I was taking them to Gymboree. I don't know if y'all know what Gymboree is, but because I don't think Gymboree exists anymore. They used to have stores. They might be online, but Gymboree used to have stores, but they also had play groups throughout my city where you could go and take your kids and they do these, little activities for like sensory stimulation and cognitive development and all of that. And see, I wasn't a nurse then, but I knew that those things were important with child development. So I took my kids to that stuff and I told my girlfriends about it, and they were taking their kids to Gymboree because it was a fun experience and it also helped the children meet their milestones appropriately. I was taking my kids to Gymboree since they were 6 months old, from 6 months old to I think two. I think they were like two or three. And then by that time, they were in daycare, and I wound up going back to work at that point because I stayed home for a couple years when my kids were young. And that's what I was doing. I enjoyed being a mom. I had like a whole routine, and I was happy with that because I was ready. I went through my phase. I was out there shaking my behind. I was out there dating different guys. I was out there just having the time of my life. I wasn't jumping in bed with a bunch of guys. Let me just make that very, very clear. But I was dating a lot of guys, like different guys. I was going out to dinner, going to AC with guys, going to illegal gambling houses, but we ain't gonna go there. And with guys. And I was in the New York club scene. I was going to Bentleys and Bridgewaters and all the hot clubs back in the day. What was the other ones? It was the Tunnel. Um, what was that other one where I learned how to house dance? Because when DC was big at that time with the house dancing. So I was in DC, like I was Baltimore, like Detroit, Chicago. When I tell you I party. Because, see, back then we could do that. Now you got to fear for your life. But back then, we used to jump in the car on the weekend. Oh, please. We be out. We would pull our money together, find some little cheap hotel, and we was out. So that's why I said I had the time of my life. So by the time I had my kids, I was ready. That party, that whole party discovery time, that was over. I was ready to, settle down, be a mom. I got my first real job after I had my kids. I didn't have my first real job till I was almost 30. I had like little part-time, little here and there, around the house jobs, but I mean an actual real job with benefits. I didn't have till I was almost like 30. I was like 30, 31. My first real job. Because all my 20's, I had like little jobs just to make enough money to go party. Because that's all I care about. I ain't care about nothing else. I made enough money to go party. So, all I cared about was buying my clothes and going out and doing things. One of my friends was a travel agent, and she used to have all these events. They used to have all these events for like travel agents, to learn about different destinations. I was going on midnight cruises and going to these different banquets, meeting businessmen and all this kind of stuff. Child, please, I had the time of my life. And see, that's what you're supposed to be doing in your 20's without being a promiscuous women. Now remember that. Now, just because you out there having fun, it don't mean you got to open up your legs, everybody. Now, keep that in mind. So I was out there, having fun, but that's what your 20's are for. And people are, these young people today are missing that. And then you're now, Halle, and I'm not saying, you know, that she shouldn't have had Halo. He's here now. What I'm saying is that Halle, now that you have a child, it derails focusing on you and what you want because now you have to focus on this child. Now that's it. And now you got a baby daddy acting like DDG, acting like a nut. So now you got to deal with that. But that's because you were doing too much in your 20's. You shouldn't be serious with nobody. You could have a boyfriend, you could date, whatever, but you shouldn't be making long-term plans or getting pregnant. That's something that you do after you find yourself. You got to find out who you are first. It took me all my 20's to figure myself out because I didn't know what was going on. All I did was go to my BS job during the week, partied all weekend, leave on a Friday, come back Sunday, sometimes Monday morning straight to work, hungover, club clothes still on, still got wristbands and light up sticks and light up stuff around my neck and all kinds of glitter and hand stamps and all that going to work. That's what you're supposed to be doing. That's what it's for. You're not supposed to be tied down with a baby or two babies and oh God, no. I don't know. That never crossed my mind when I was in my 20's. In my early 20's, it never crossed my mind to have a baby. That never crossed my mind. I made sure that didn't even happen. So but that's why Halle and DDG are having such a problem. They are too young to handle the huge responsibility of raising a child and still trying to figure out who they both are. DDG is still trying to figure out his own career. One minute he's doing YouTube videos, now he's doing streaming, and you don't know how that's going to go. Halle is still trying to figure out her career. Yes, she's a Disney princess. She sings beautifully, but she's still so many different directions she can go with her career. She could do Broadway if she want. She could do movie soundtracks. She could do musical. It's so many things that Halle can do. And now that she has acting under her belt, She could do more acting if she wants to. That's why I said these are the years that she's supposed to be figuring this stuff out. So you guys comment below about what your 20s was like. If you're, older, if you 30 and above. So if you're 30 and above, comment to say, listen, I had a ball, I did this, I did that. Or say, listen, I wish I would have more time to myself in my 20s. I was already a wife and mother at 24, or 25, or something like that. Because when I do assessments on women, I'm not going to say men because, we're talking about women right now. When I do assessments on women that had children young in life, they all say the same thing. They love their children, but they wish they could have had them later. Knowing what they know now, they wanted more time for themselves because you need time to know who you are, especially if you didn't come from like a loving, supportive home. You really need that time for yourself because you need to figure out who you are. And sometimes in your 20s, you need therapy. If you're coming out of a family that there is trauma attached to it, a lot of times you need traumas. You need therapy, excuse me, just to find out who you are. Because sometimes you could be so mentally damaged that you don't even know who you are and you make the worst decisions that wind up hurting yourself over and over and over again because you don't know who you are because of the trauma. Because trauma can derail who you are. For example, if you were young, say you were young and you could sing and you had trauma, so you stopped singing. You no longer found joy in singing. How do you know you couldn't have been a great singer? How do you know you couldn't have been a songwriter? How do you don't know what you could have done with that? And that's what I'm talking about. That's why, if you didn't have a good upbringing and you had a bad childhood, that in your 20s is when you should be going to therapy and figuring out who you are. And this is, the problem that, Hallie and DDG are having. They don't know who they are yet. They're both young. They're both still trying to figure life out. But now they have this little life that depends on them. So they don't have time to focus on themselves anymore. Now they have to focus on making a living and creating a life for Halo, which sometimes derails what you want to do, or it pushes things that you thought about you wanted to do to the back burner because now you have to take care of a child, which happens to a lot of people. It happens to a lot. So I'm gonna close this out because I just wanted to get this out, and I'm going to do more videos, trying to help, young people as well as at any age you learn because you learn something every day. But I really want to help more young people because it's so many young people today that are really lost. They really haven't had the proper guidance. They really haven't had people to actually tell them the real, because we live in an upside down world right now where right is right and wrong is wrong. And because we live in an upside down world, a lot of people are miserable. Because when you live in an upside down world, a lot of people are unhappy because they're out here doing the wrong thing. And when you're out here doing the wrong thing, it never feels good. In the end, it doesn't. So I'm going to get off of here. I'll be back with another video. You guys take care, and I will be back soon.